Okay, thank you, Andrew, and good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, October 27th, 2022, and this is our week number 73 of the Indigenous Global Unity Summit event. Today, we should have on our call today Solomon Owiti from the Lake Victoria Peace and Sustainability Center. But before I do start these sessions each time, I do acknowledge those who came before us on this land and say a land acknowledgement. So we begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we are committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Wendat, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd like to acknowledge the land we are on here is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. Actually, I just wanted to mention before we get going that I actually was in my wife's school yesterday and her classroom, and I noticed that the school board, York Region District School Board, had put up notices at the front of every classroom with this land acknowledgement that I just said, or very similar, along with an acknowledgement of the contributions of Black people to the communities. So there is an official acknowledgement that is being taught to all of the students as well regarding the contributions of Black Canadians to our society.
Well noted.
And I will try to share that. I took a photo of those postings at the front of the classroom yesterday. So I do want to mention the events coming up, and this is perhaps where I can share my screen. And so I will maximize my presentation. Share the screen. So before we start the guest presentation, we do have to note that today is Thursday, October 27th, 2022, and is also the World Day for Audiovisual Heritage, which is a UNESCO organization that is organizing this day. So the World Day for Audiovisual Heritage is a commemoration of the adoption in 1980 by the 21st General Conference of the Recommendation for the Safeguarding and Preservation of Moving Images. The World Day provides an occasion to raise general awareness of the need to take urgent measures and to acknowledge the importance of audiovisual documents. In this way, the World Day also serves as an opportunity for UNESCO's member states to evaluate their performance with respect to implementing the 2015 recommendation concerning the preservation of and access to documentary heritage, including in digital form. Audiovisual archives tell us stories about people's lives and cultures from all over the world. They represent a priceless heritage, which is an affirmation of our collective memory and a valuable source of knowledge, since they reflect the cultural, social, and linguistic diversity of our communities. They also help us grow and comprehend the world we all share. Conserving this heritage and ensuring it remains accessible to the public and future generations is a vital goal for all memory institutions, as well as the public at large. the UNESCO Archives has launched the project Digitizing Our Shared UNESCO History with this very goal in mind. Again, I am putting this information into the chat for everybody. And I will be at the end of this presentation as well, creating a document for our own archives and everybody to access these links. So the World Day for Audiovisual Heritage celebrations in 2022 will be celebrated in conjunction with the 30th anniversary of the Memory of the World program. The celebration will take place from the 27th of October, which is today, to 5th of November 2022, under the theme Enlisting Documentary Heritage to Promote Inclusive, Just, and Peaceful Societies. Taking its cue from the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, documentary heritage as an information resource lends itself both to the public access to information component of Target 16.1 of SDG 16 and its fundamental freedoms component. With respect to the theme of the celebration, while the question of ensuring universal access to documentary heritage remains a foundational concern, there is a strong focus on how documentary heritage can be used to promote inclusive, just, and peaceful societies. Again, information is being posted in the chat. This is also Global Media and Information Literacy Week, which started on Monday, October 24th, and goes until the end of the month, October 31st. Again, there is a link to UNESCO, which describes this as Global Media and Information Literacy Week, commemorated annually now as a major occasion for stakeholders to review and celebrate the progress achieved toward media and information literacy for all. The theme this year, Nurturing Trust, a media and information literacy imperative. The venue is in Abuja, Nigeria. Again, the link to this event is in the chat for Media and Information Literacy Week. And I do also want to mention the COP27 funding alert for African youth, which was just posted this morning in some of our groups. So the African Youth Mobilization for COP, a campaign of Yongo, is inviting African youth with knowledge and experience in climate change issues and are actively involved in climate change initiatives to apply for a funded opportunity to attend the 27th Conference of the Parties of the UNFCCC, COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. So there is a link that I am putting into the chat for this opportunity for funding to attend COP27 in Egypt. These applications close on the 28th of October 2022. Unfortunately, that is tomorrow, so we must act on this very quickly. So coming soon at the end of this month on All Hallows Eve, or Halloween, is World Cities Day on October 31st. So we celebrate this event pursuant to our UnityNet support for the UN Habitat New Urban Agenda. So the global observance which was first held in 2014, is organized by the United Nations Human Settlements Program in coordination with each year's selected host city. So the World Cities Day brings Urban October to an end on the 31st of October each year. This was first celebrated in 2014. As with World Habitat Day, global observance is held in a different city each year, and the day focuses on a specific theme. This year's global observance is planned in Shanghai, China, under the name Act Local and Go Global. We want to bring different partners and diverse stakeholders together to share their experiences and approaches to local action, what local action worked, and what is needed to empower local and regional governments to create greener, more equitable, and sustainable cities. With the local action, being critical to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. UN Habitat has been at the forefront of SDG localization since the very endorsement of the 2030 Agenda. Since then, UN Habitat has been working to advance SDG localization by providing technical expertise to partners across the globe, by leading the development of cutting-edge research, by capacitating local and regional governments on SDG localization, and by strengthening the voice of local governments and local actors within the main international and UN fora on the SDGs. And again, I will put in additional information into the chat about all of these various initiatives by UN Habitat, including the information about World Cities Day, October 31st. Again, I will also mention Urban October, where Urban October was launched by UN Habitat in 2014 to emphasize the world's urban challenges and engage the international community toward the new urban agenda. They are encouraging national governments, local authorities, the private sector, and other urban practitioners to mark the day by organizing events through workshops or seminars, panel discussions, and interviews. So again, in the chat, you'll find additional information, both about the Urban October, as well as the Sustainable Development Goal number 11, which is formulating the ambition to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable, underlying the relevance of UN Habitat's mission, where inequalities in cities have grown since 1980. The world's largest cities are also often the most unequal. And this year's theme is embraced by the action and implementation of the new urban agenda, which is putting the topic of inclusive cities as one of the main pillars for the urban shift. I am also putting additional information about the UN Human Settlements Program, or UN Habitat, which provides the potential for new forms of social inclusion, including greater equality, access to services, and new opportunities, and engagement and mobilization that reflects the diversity of cities, countries, and the globe. Cities should be encouraged to innovate and experiment, and also to learn from one another in order to hasten this transition. For instance, through twin town initiatives or city networks, it will be necessary to replace a competitive cities governance approach to urban economies with a well-grounded cities approach that serves the interests of all citizens, where they note that today around 55% of the world's population lives in towns and cities, with the level of urbanization projected to reach almost 70% by 2050, with much of the growth in urban populations likely to take place in Asia and Africa, especially in China, India, and Nigeria. Again, additional information about the UN Habitat New Urban Agenda is also being put into the chat, where they note that in October 2016, the Habitat 3 conference held in Quito in Ecuador adopted this new framework, which will set the world on a course towards sustainable urban development. By rethinking how cities are planned, managed, and inhabited, the new urban agenda will set the pace on how to deal with the challenges of urbanization in the next 2 decades, and is seen as an extension of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, agreed on by 193 member states of the UN in September 2015. Related to this as well is also the World Health Organization and UN Habitat, which are working together. So they are commemorating World Cities Day on 31st of October, where the WHO and the UN Human Settlements Program, or UN Habitat, are jointly organizing a webinar to launch the new global framework for the response to malaria in urban centers. So again, there is additional information in the chat on that event. So a reminder as well that October 24th was also United Nations Day, where UN Day marks the anniversary of the day in 1945 when the UN Charter entered into force. I am including additional information and links where UN Day is an annual commemorative day reflecting the official creation of the UN on the 24th of October 1945. In 1947, the UN General Assembly declared the 24th of October as the anniversary of the Charter of the UN to be devoted to making known to the people of the world the aims and achievements of the United Nations and to gaining their support for its work. Another thing I would like to mention today as a reminder, Mitch Gold, an advisor to the Global Unity Network, would like us to also transform this day, October 24th, into World Drumming at City Hall Day in support of and in partnership with all Indigenous communities worldwide. What I have also added to this call is that the drumming ceremonies at city halls should also be done in celebration of the Heart of Africa and also be done with members of the African diaspora. I would like to suggest that some of us may consider to organize this drumming at city halls on Monday, October 24th, 2023, at all of the local city halls in our network of networks, where we can start by organizing formal drumming ceremonies with all of the members of the local INAP collaboratives in each of our own local communities, inclusive of all the local Indigenous community members, and wherever you might be, inclusive of and in recognition of the Heart of Africa, and with members of the African diaspora. So I will likely be creating a working group for this as well. So October 24th was also World Development Information Day. So World Development Information Day was first held in October 24th, 1973. It was held on this date each year since then. The day concentrates on improving the dissemination of information and mobilizing public opinion, especially among youth. The aim of improving information dissemination and the mobilization of public information or public opinion is to make awareness of development problems. When the world gives its attention to the issues of development, countries worldwide are obliged to solve such problems. The General Assembly deems that information and communication technologies are vital to solving development problems in the context of globalization. New solutions to development challenges have the potential to promote economic growth, increase access to information and knowledge, improve social inclusion, and eradicate poverty. Again, I am putting additional information and links in the chat. As an additional reminder, earlier this month, on Sunday, October 16th, on World Food Day, we completed our first UnityNet Youth Peace Week, which will happen every year from Global Cooperation Day, October 4th, until World Food Day, October 16th. This day is what we also intend to become the day for our International Global Climate Smart Youth Forum hybrid in-person and virtual event. So Youth Peace Week also includes World Teachers Day on October 5th, World Migratory Bird Day, the second Saturday of every October, World Mental Health Day, October 10th, International Day of the Girl Child on October 11th, International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction on October 13th, and the International Day of Rural Women on October 15th. So October 16th, World Food Day, which is also the UnityNet Global Climate Smart Youth Forum, is an international day celebrated every year worldwide on October 16th to commemorate the date of the founding of the UN Food and Agriculture Organization in 1945. So the day is celebrated widely by many other organizations concerned with hunger and food security, including the World Food Program. This year's theme was Leave No One Behind, a call for resilient and equitable food systems. 2022 finds us with an ongoing pandemic, conflicts, a climate that won't stop warming, rising prices, and international tensions. This is affecting global food security. The Global Climate Smart Youth Forum discussion group is also something I will put into the chat for people to access, as well as the Global Climate Smart Youth Forum Week discussion group as well, led by two people in Africa, one Dr. Amadou Monday Amadou from Yeli International, the Youth Education and Leadership Initiative, and the other by Dr. Ms. Mary Ifeanyi Solanke from UnityNet, Nigeria. This year, during Youth Peace Week on October 13th, was the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, where I did a presentation as well about the Science for Peace COSWAC Climate Smart Food Program that was developed from about June 2017. Again, in the chat, I am putting additional information about the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, along with some additional information about our Climate Smart Food Program of Science for Peace and the Community Sustainability Working Group. Other events coming up include the 15th Conference of Parties on Biological Diversity, or COP15, that will take place in Montreal this coming December. I had started a discussion with our UnityNet biodiversity team leader, Leslie Adams, from the Sierra Club of Canada, who is also the Sierra Club lead on integration of the SDGs into the Sierra Club activities for Sierra Club Ontario. For anyone interested in attending this event, please feel free to contact me and join the UnityNet or UnityNet Unity Biodiversity Network, which again, I will put some information about this network into the chat, along with the information from the Canadian government about the goals of the international collaboration that they would like to do to achieve the post-2020 global biodiversity framework, including targeting 30% of lands and oceans conserved by 2030 and halting and reversing biodiversity loss, which, as they note, requires real collaboration and partnership, including with Indigenous peoples, the original guardians of the land. It also requires real transformation, change, innovation, and a proper accounting for the true value of nature in decision-making across all sectors. Again, you will find the official conference page for COP15 in the chat. I do as well want to note our Unity Biodiversity Network related to all of the work that we are doing. As well, I'm putting in the chat some information about Sierra Club and the Ontario chapter, along with the Ontario Biodiversity Council, led by Steve Hounsell, who's chair in its 17th year of the council. As well, there's information about the Convention on Biological Diversity, Eqity Biodiversity Targets, and the Nagoya Protocol on Access and Benefit Sharing, which was created by the CBD as well, which helps to ensure benefit sharing, where the Nagoya Protocol creates incentives to conserve and sustainably use genetic resources, in other words, life, and therefore enhances the contribution of biodiversity to development and human well-being, where the Nagoya Protocol also covers traditional knowledge associated with these genetic resources that are covered by the CBD and the benefits arising from its utilization. It also addresses genetic resources where Indigenous and local communities have the established right to grant access to them. Contracting parties are to take measures to ensure these communities prior informed consent and fair and equitable benefit sharing, keeping in mind community laws and procedures, as well as customary use and exchange, where there are a range of tools and mechanisms provided by the Nagoya Protocol to assist contracting parties, including establishing national focal points and competent national authorities, an access and benefit sharing clearinghouse to share information, capacity building to support key aspects of implementation based on a country's self-assessment of national needs and priorities, and awareness raising, technology transfer, and targeted financial support for capacity building and development initiatives done through the Nagoya Protocol's financial mechanism, the Global Environment Facility, which today I am putting some information additionally about the Global Environment Facility, which was established on the eve of the 1992 Rio Earth Summit as a catalyst for action on the environment and much more. Through its strategic investments, the GEF works with partners to tackle the planet's biggest environmental issues. UNEP has been working hand in hand with the Global Environment Facility to create a greener world for almost 30 years. Together, they have implemented over 1,000 projects, inspiring, informing, and enabling the public and policymakers across more than 160 countries. Additional information about the GEF, Global Environment Facility, is being provided in the chat, along with links, for instance, to Wikipedia, but also to the Canadian government, where they note that the GEF addresses international environmental issues that directly affect Canadians and the Canadian environment. Of particular importance to Environment Canada is the GEF's work on biodiversity, climate change, POPs, and ozone layer focal areas. Since its inception in 1991, the GEF has provided $8.6 billion in grants and leveraged $36 billion in co-financing for over 2,400 projects in over 165 countries. It has generated a substantial quantity of positive environmental results. The Canadian International Development Agency, or CIDA, is the Government of Canada's lead on the GEF, with Environment Canada providing technical and environmental advice on GEF programming and priorities. Again, there are additional resources and links to the LDCF, which is one of the largest portfolios of least developed country adaptation projects in the international finance community. The LDCF, or Least Developed Countries Fund, has financed over 310 projects and 53 enabling activities, with approximately $1.7 billion in grants, directly benefiting over 50 million people. So I would like to move forward now at this point, and know if our guest speaker is on the line at all. It doesn't seem like Solomon Owiti is with us, unfortunately. So
I did text him on both Messenger and WhatsApp. Apparently he hasn't been online for a good 10 hours.
Okay, there could be, of course, all of these connection issues that tend to happen more often than not.
Yeah, he's on Lake Victoria, and reception does tend to be pretty sporadic there.
Okay, so with that, we will move forward with our regular presentation. As you had seen today, there were many more links to many more resources for potential partnership and funding as we move forward with these projects that we would like to implement. What I want to mention, again, the Global Unity Network, our UnityNet mission, is all about bringing existing local, regional, national, and international organizations together for the common purpose, starting at the local level. With this common purpose to establish a localized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. Through the implementation of our AHIABGA UnityNet process of localization of the global goals. In order to start designing and building in our local communities the productive, open source, regenerative, climate smart infrastructure solutions wherever we live in the world. These regenerative, climate smart infrastructure solutions are to be established as businesses, starting with cooperative cooperative community Unity Garden learning centers built and run by local community co-ops by local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are implementing the local regenerative solutions to achieving the global goals for the ultimate purpose, again, of educating and training an entire generation of young people and families in the concepts, systems, infrastructure, management practices, and ethics of a globalized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. Again, in the chat, you'll find additional information. So I do want to mention our Youth Peace Gardens network, where the message of UnityNet involves a change in the paradigm of dialogue. We must always remember that we are fighting with peace and not for it, which means using higher consciousness in achieving our objectives. We're not fighting a war with each other to save the planet. We're making peace with the planet to save ourselves. This new strategy is called Gaia's Guitar Strategy and will allow us to create a shared consciousness with peacemaking that is more contagious than fear and war. The message will be centered around the 4 elements and symbols of peace that we should incorporate into every local community of UnityNet. These include the Youth Peace Gardens established in each local community, along with a tree of peace and reconciliation planted in the garden, an Indigenous unity flag raised in a location nearby, and a peace pole erected in a conspicuous location with high foot traffic within or next to the garden. These are the symbols of the UnityNet Peace Garden Network, which also includes the community Unity Garden learning centers, and allow us to create sacred spaces in all our local communities, which can be mapped on our UnityNet sacred site and watershed map, and are symbolic of the community of humanity coming together in peace, reconciliation, forgiveness, and the restoration of our relationship with Mother Earth and each other, because this is the only way that we'll be able to ensure that all of humanity and all our relations will be able to survive in the climate of the future. Again, in the chat, you'll find additional links and information. I do want to mention as well our primary sponsor, giving recognition to our supporters and sponsors each time, but in particular, Andrew Networks, our door opening network of the Global Unity Network of Networks, who is hosting this weekly Thursday Zoom call for us and is committed to do so through December 2023. Andrew Networks is also hosting additional events like the Youth Peace Week events and our Drawdown Markham monthly events as well. Andrew Networks promotional support services can also rebroadcast any production-ready presentations or other citizen media with the theme of globalization, re-indigenization, resilience, and local implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals on the AHIABGA.org domain, which are being redirected to a number of social media sites, such as UCIT-TV site and others. Andrew Networks is a branded domain name owned by ParXTC Export Trading Company, comprising the various social media channels, including TRN-TV, Universal Citizens, Media Networks, Conversations with Andrew Williams Jr., and many others. Andrew Networks is not only our primary sponsor supporting this promotional ecosystem for UnityNet, but this Indigenous Global UnityNet Summit is one which will continue through to December 2023. Andrew is also our Yes, Yes, Yes partner, helping to open doors so that members of our network are able to discover their inner selves and passions, where Andrew Networks is working with the people who occupy the nodes of our global unity network so they can come together with the people of the network, acting like a net to support the dreams of our members, so they can leverage those passions, transform their visions of a better future for themselves and their communities into a reality that makes sense for both themselves and their own communities, however they might define what that better future is collectively, as they seek to work together in partnership and leave no one behind. And in the chat, you find additional information about Andrew Networks. I do want to mention as well who I am. I am Lloyd Halferty, Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and Sustainable Society Consultant for Energyme University, headquartered in Manhattan, in New York, US. I am located in the city of Markham in the Don River watershed, German Mills Creek subwatershed, which drains into Lake Ontario, the lowest and last of the North American Great Lakes, in the Greater Toronto Area, in Southern Ontario, Canada, North America, also known as Turtle Island. Energyme University is a private 501(c)(3) nonprofit company in New York, a member of the UN Global Compact, and a UN Academic Impact member and partner. Energyme U is a virtual university. We were created to help empower global populations to reestablish a sustainable balance with their local environments. We do this by designing and implementing projects to support a strong and diversified local economy, while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into these communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth solutions, and systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water resources. Energyme is supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies we employ. Importantly, Energyme University also supports local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all the various integrated solutions for achieving closed-loop systems that in turn support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. Again, in the chat, you'll find direct links to connect with me. I'd like to also mention We Energyme Global Cooperation Turtle Island, of which I am co-founder and administrator, the international civil society organization that we created, which is seeking to undertake what we call life value peace education, done in the context of life learning gardens, which in UnityNet we call Unity Gardens. So I want to mention as well the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. I was designated as a Goodwill Ambassador for the 5 Points Youth Foundation, which is located in Los Angeles, California. I have a portfolio that covers Canada, La Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities. As a member of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and Activists, we're seeking to empower our communities to engage with royal, indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as helping local communities establish interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives that will come together and pledge to support all of the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are localizing the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals, while also seeking ways of leaving no one behind. Again, in the chat, you can connect with the Ad Hoc International Goodwill Ambassadors. I am the co-founder of the Global Unity Network, which is being established by UnityNet International, or UNI, which helped to create UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, and all of the other global groups in Asia, the Americas, and Europe. We are a network of people and organizations supporting the AHIABGA UnityNet process of localization of the global goals, currently the SDGs, and the global transition to a localized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So we're creating a global empowerment network of professionals in regenerative development to support all of our members, including the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are helping to implement the local regenerative climate smart solutions that are required to achieve the productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind, where humanitarian entrepreneurship is defined as a social enterprise that focuses on the delivery of the solutions for achieving the sustainable development goals globally. UnityNet has a mandate to educate our youth so they know how to build this regenerative climate smart infrastructure in all of their local communities. Our role at UnityNet is to establish the hybrid infrastructure that is necessary for delivering the learning programs, the education and training that provides all the local humanitarian entrepreneurs with the appropriate knowledge, tools, and processes that they need to help implement the global goals, currently the SDGs, locally within their own local communities, within the context of this overarching goal of leaving no one behind. So it's important to note that the existing social media we use the WhatsApp, the Facebook, and the LinkedIn groups that we're using right now are being used as a placeholder as we build the global Unity network and prepare to launch this, where we'll eventually get all of the people, companies, and nodes of the network onto our Interchange for Peace VCN. Well, they'll then be able to gain access to the tools and services that are available there, and where we can much more easily collaborate in order to locally implement all these globally coordinated real-world projects, events, enterprises, and infrastructure. So again, in the chat, you'll find links to the UnityNet International social media pages. So UnityNet was created to showcase global cooperation for the implementation of the global or the local regenerative solutions to achieving the global goals, starting with those 17 SDGs. Our purpose is to help uplift the traditionally marginalized communities that are mostly being left behind because the existing economic paradigm focused on making money for those who are already wealthy by extracting resources through the exploitation of people in the natural world, usually overexploitation of the same. The majority of people on Earth are mostly being ignored by this existing highly competitive economy. So our focus is on the billions of people who exist or subsist on the economic sidelines, where we intend to start our work by helping local communities deliver the various local regenerative and climate smart enterprise solutions that people and communities in some of the least developed countries, communities, and local economies require in order to thrive. As an entry point, we are focused in particular on those communities that are the most food insecure. And in chat, you'll find additional links. So UnityNet is promoting the delivery of a suite of practical solutions to achieving the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals during this SDG period until 2030. We're focused on using the tools of humanitarian entrepreneurship, focusing on those female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and their enterprises with the FFHE, and using hybrid, virtual, and hands-on education and training and learning programs, platforms, and curricula, with a primary focus on delivery of the various humanitarian entrepreneurship skills training in practical settings, in other words, practicum learning, along with leveraging these open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions to remotely assist local INAP collaborative teams to establish the local collaborative open source Unity Garden classrooms in all the local communities around the world. So the Unity Garden classrooms, set up in collaboration with existing schools and local communities, can be used for the local and remote and virtual delivery of the practicum learning programs for all of these FFHE members, so they can learn how to grow, process, cook, market, sell, and trade the various types of regenerative climate smart food and related nutritional and medicinal and other types of locally produced regenerative products, both within their own local communities, as well as regionally, nationally, continentally, and even internationally, in order to produce income and greater prosperity for themselves and for the people in their own local communities, and for all people on all continents, with the intention and goal of leaving no one behind. Again, you will find a link to the UnityNet Smart Cities Network, along with the related Unity Eco-Village Network and the Temple Network, as well as the Climate Smart Kitchens groups that we have created, and the UnityNet Green Cook Stoves, which is related to the kitchens. As well, I would like to mention that the AHIABGA process of localization of the global goals is intended to help everyone in each of their own local communities establish these local teams of humanitarian entrepreneurs, as well as the local community empowerment networks, these INAP collaboratives that provide support and ensure the success of the local cooperative humanitarian enterprises who are building the Unity Gardens. The Unity Gardens are intended to be established in each local community across our global network, most likely starting in Africa, but also here in North America, on Turtle Island, and in Asia and Oceania as well. The process of establishing the local INAP collaboratives is done by taking part in the Abraham Project, where we plant the trees of peace and reconciliation and do the ceremonies. This started on Sunday, June 5th, World Environment Day, 2022, but continues throughout the planting seasons locally, wherever we are. Some communities will also establish twin trees of peace and reconciliation and twinned unity gardens and INAP collaboratives too. The twinning or thinning or quadrinning or more will be done through the CTP program, which is a process of twinning the local community unity garden humanitarian enterprises and also twinning the local community INAP collaboratives. We are building here a global network of local INAP collaboratives where all of the members in each local community empowerment network will be interconnected, watching over and talking to each other at the global level, where each local INAP collaborative will have a diverse set of members from the 7 different sectors of every community: public, private, civil society, academic, interfaith, finance, and orange economy, or the creative sector. And all of these members will also be watching, promoting, and helping each other and supporting the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs in all of these local communities, who will be empowered by all of the members of the Global Unity Network, and where all activities are also intended to be transparent, and all members of the global network, including all members of the local INAP collaboratives, will also be accountable to and for the success of the local collaborative Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise in each of their own local communities. Again, for the chat, you will find additional links to some of our related networks, including the AHIABGA network, the Climate Smart Farming Network, the Plant-Based Climate Smart Food Network, the Global Unity Network, Smart Greenhouses Network, and the Unity Tourism for SDGs Network, which are all promoting these common goals. I do want to mention the INAB collaboratives established at the local level, where we're leveraging our process of community engagement. The community engagement done through the Trees of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting ceremonies, along with the flag raising ceremonies as well. This is followed by ongoing community engagement by interacting through the regularly scheduled events throughout the year, including the coordinated Bubble Fun festivals and sports and dancing and arts done in collaboration with the local INAB collaborative members. We also have the CTP program mentioned earlier for twinning community activities, such as community organized tree planting and or local regenerative and public community infrastructure development projects and events, along with the Tea Diplomacy Initiative, which is both in-person and virtual community conversations on topics like peace, regeneration, reconciliation, and forgiveness, along again with the Dream Boards Initiative and in collaboration with the C4 group members and others, and identification of an engagement with local talent, artists, and creative people in the orange economy for the purpose of promoting and showcasing their talent, especially as they promote through their art the globalization of the global goals and the achievement of a compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind, especially during any one of our periodic sunlight spectacle and other edutainment events that may be done throughout the year, along with any programs or activities that may be developed in the context of the Climate Smart Gardens and Forests and the Climate Smart Kitchens and the Wheel of Life Farms and the Climate Smart Ag and Food Training Centers, or CSAF centers, also known as Spark Learning Centers or Climate Smart Learning Centers. Again, you will find additional information about the Unity Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting group, as well as the International Bubble Fun Festivals discussion groups as well, which are coordinated through the Greater Unity Network management team and supporters, which is an international partnership for global unity toward humanitarian entrepreneurship, education, and training. So we now have Global Fun Festival events, first proposed by the members of the PodNet Cooperative Organization, which is based in Iceland, represented by Mr. Aubrey Zhang from the Pyropod Company here in Canada. The members of this discussion group are here to help coordinate fun festivals along with the themes in multiple countries and across multiple continents. This is part of the Global Unity Network mandate to deliver affordable, accessible, effective learning programs, the virtual and hands-on education and training in these open source, regenerative, climate smart infrastructure solutions that will help humanity transition into this regenerative economy, first through the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, but ultimately as the world transitions our economy toward a set of regenerative development goals as well. You will find additional information about these programs and what I'm saying here in the chat, including the key diplomacy initiative groups and the Dream Board groups as well. Now, this is normally when we would go and have our special presentation. Looking at the members who are here, I noticed that our guest speaker is not with us. So our presentation today is intended to be followed by a dialogue about actions we can take within UnityNet and our own local communities to help implement the programs of UnityNet within the context of our lives, our businesses, our communities, and our family activities. One thing that I would like to mention today, and I'm not certain if anyone noticed the heart of our logo for UnityNet International, which is now also reflected in the graphic describing the HEPTA matrix partnership model that is shown at the bottom of this page. The heart in our logo and in this graphic is also symbolic of the 8th partnership between Indigenous peoples and the settlers, all those who came in places or came to places like Turtle Island, the Americas, North and South, and who occupied or colonized so many parts of Africa and Asia, sometimes by force and cultural genocide. The heart in the middle of the logo also represents this 8th partnership, as well as love and compassion as the primary tools for healing ourselves in the world. But it also represents the heart of Africa, which is not only a concept, but is a location now known as the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC, as well as being a sacred object, a piece of amber, the fossilized sap of ancient trees that is shaped like a heart and that is being held by Mitch Gold. So in fact, there are 8 partners in the full partnership ecosystem that we want to create in every local community worldwide. The 8th partner for practical reconciliation is the Indigenous communities of the world and is related to the 8th fire prophecy, which speaks of a great peace and reconciliation between the First Nations and the settlers. So as we have our feature presentation today, which may not happen, I will also be putting some additional information into the Zoom chat. I will share this information for everyone on the call and everyone in our network following this call by sharing a PDF document, which will be posted online on slideshare.net, just as we did with our Drawdown Markham opening presentation that we did on October 18th, which featured questions for our local municipal election candidates here in the city of Markham, so they could also understand what it is that UnityNet is doing to empower community members to implement the global solutions for achieving the global goals through the establishment of these local humanitarian enterprises run by the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are establishing the local community Unity Garden learning centers here in the city of Markham, in York Region, in the Greater Toronto area of Ontario, Canada. In the chat, you'll also find additional information about the 8th fire prophecy, where they describe this prophecy as launching a golden age leading to peace on earth, rooted in the Anishinaabe people's prophecy of the 7 fires. According to this prophecy, it is at this time that the new people will emerge and be given a choice between 2 roads. One road will be green and lush and very inviting. The other road will be black and charred and walking it will cut their feet. I will also be sharing some additional information about the Shabunda project and Giri Land Care Network in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the heart of Africa. This project is supporting Les Forêts de la Paix, the Forests of Peace, with the Friends of the African Union, where we would like to work together, and where I am also posting information, especially about the new UnityNet office or UN Office of the Future collaboration done through the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development. So we have created a new group to approach the UN resident coordinators in all countries to deliver education about the UN Office of the Future programs, which are designed to teach and use Poe as a fundamental of communications, and to integrate UN Office of the Future programs into the UnityNet Youth Peace Gardens programs, and identify graphene uses, and encourage all to attend the Minute of Peace Sunday events, which take place every Sunday at 11:11 a.m. Eastern, Toronto. There are other programs of the UN Office of the Future as well, including the Heart of Africa campaign and the 1% Solution, which is a credit card incentive and funding finance program supporting the campaign for the Heart of Africa in support of social change through the UN Office of the Future, where UNDRIP is the key program that needs to be implemented globally using the 1% Solution, as noted by Mitch Gold as well. So I am providing additional information in the chat for the new discussion group with Mitch Gold. I will also provide information in the chat about the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, UNDRIP, if it fits. Chat window, which has limited capabilities. But one thing I would like to mention as well is UNDRIP enshrines, according to Article 43, the rights to constitute the minimum standards for the survival, dignity, and well-being of the Indigenous peoples of the world, where UNDRIP protects collective rights that may not be addressed in other human rights charters that emphasize individual rights. It also safeguards the individual rights of Indigenous peoples. The declaration is the product of almost 25 years of deliberation by UN member states and Indigenous groups. So again, in the chat, you'll find additional information about UNDRIP, which was passed by the United Nations General Assembly in September 2007 and acts as an international instrument for the respect and recognition of the human rights of Indigenous peoples. The assent of Bill C-15 here in Canada brings the guarantee of federal law consistent with the Act and promises to combat injustice and prejudice. The Canadian state has vowed to work with Indigenous representatives to develop plans to implement the Act, a plan that includes measures to address injustice, promote respect, and eliminate discrimination, as well as to hold the state accountable. Again, I will put some related information about our Drawdown Markham opening presentation, which was done on the 18th of March, or of October, sorry. This is, I believe, information that we should know of as well about what we are doing locally here in the city of Markham. There is one additional slide that I do want to mention as well. In 2023, we want to also have an international representation at our proposed Grandmother's Bubble Fund Multicultural Festival that we'd like to host here in the city of Markham as well. The Bubble Fund Festival would take place in August 2023, sometime between the International Day of Indigenous Peoples on August 9th, World Humanitarian Day on August 19th, and as close as possible to the International Youth Day on August 12th. We need to do a lot of planning ahead, including fundraising, which is why we are starting this discussion now. I will also be having this discussion with the members of Drawdown Markham and our partners through the Community Climate Action Hub and their collaborative exchange program. We also want to be talking to members of Hollywood North, begin creating youth empowerment music that helps to carry our UnityNet message about things like localization of global goals and ways to create a globalized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind in all our local communities. In other words, Ubuntu. We would like to create a campaign in support of the implementation of UNDRIP locally in every community. This campaign will be taken to all of our local communities and society as a whole by helping to bring cultural education back into the schools. This event would be hosted by the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development, of which I am putting links in the chat as well, so that people can join this discussion. Related to this is the UnityNet Sister Schools Working Group and the various communities related to that, as well as the Drawdown Markham CCAH, the Community Climate Action Hub Collaborative Exchange Program, and our Drawdown Markham Business Network, in other words, the Drawdown Markham Human Resource Catalog, a community investment and exchange system that we created back when we established Drawdown Markham. So this community exchange system involves a professional online voluntary database, a way to organize our local cities and municipalities in order to create collaborative community service, community investment, and community exchange systems among citizens who live within the watersheds where most of our day-to-day interactions take place. The forum allows local residents and community members to interact with mutual aid, mediated by accreditation and providing goods and services to each other in service to the betterment of the community as a whole. Within Drawdown Markham, we believe that this is an essential resource for creating locally inclusive, welcoming, interactive economies. So in closing our presentation today, the one more thing that I wanted to mention before we close, this UnityNet initiative is not led by governments, it's not led by the schools, it's led by the members of the multi-stakeholder partnerships, these local INAB collaboratives that are intended to be created in all locals, with all local stakeholders in each local community, where each of the stakeholders will have a voice at the table about how the local community projects move forward in each of the local communities, where these local projects led by the local women and girls, along with the men who support them as feminists. The most important thing we do in UnityNet is to help people establish these local INAB collaboratives. So UnityNet International is helping to bring all of the members of the local INAB collaboratives together globally, created in each local community. We bring them all into the safe space at the Interchange for Peace, VCN. So this is the reason for our tree planting ceremonies, the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation, and the reason we create youth peace gardens and the Indigenous unity flags and the peace poles. This is part of the Abraham Project, which is now ongoing, continuously progressing forward. The INAB collaboratives are the centerpiece of the Global Unity Network, which is our network of networks that consists of the local INAB collaboratives working together to uplift and empower the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are globalizing the global goals. Remember as well that in each local community, there are 8 different sectors representing families at the local level. The realms of these sectors include the public, private, civil society, academic, interfaith, finance, orange economy, and Indigenous communities, inclusive of the African diaspora. The INAB collaboratives will be led by the women in the local community, working together with their feminist counterparts. We will also work closely with the NGOs and CSOs who are on the ground and with the community members who will know what is actually happening in the community and among the families who are living there. And all of the INAB collaborative members will be tasked with watching and helping each other as per Ubuntu and supporting the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs in each local community will be empowered by all the members of the global network, and where all activities are also intended to be transparent to all members of the global network, including all members of the INAB collaboratives, will also be accountable to and for the success of the local humanitarian enterprises, starting with the Community Unity Garden Humanitarian Enterprise or community hubs, where our vision is a global, peaceful, localized economy that will also be led by the women and men who understand the power of partnerships as per SDG 17, instead of only competition and fighting and war with each other and over resources. So this ends our presentation today. I guess we can now open the floor for any comments or discussions that people may have. I will stop the share. And I'm glad to see that Stephanie Schullers and Hendrik are still on the line. I'm hoping that the person but with the name The Revolutionary Party will be able to introduce themselves, and so we know who they are.
Indeed. Hope all is well, you guys. My name is Dylan King. I am a international revolutionary. I'm attempting to do what you guys are essentially talking about doing here. You know, my goal is to unify like organizations and get everyone organized into a new international system that is proper.
Mhm.
That's my goal. And I love to hear what you guys have going on here. I see y'all have an enormous amount of stuff going on. I'd love to get more in detail about it with you guys, get more collaborative, to get on the same page with y'all. You know, I've talked to Andrew a good bit, and I've been in one of y'all's Zooms before. But I've been missing them recently. You know, they kind of been random for me. I didn't know the exact times and dates and so on, you know. So I've got my own organizations I'm running and such. So my life is kind of crazy as well. So I'd love to see us all get on board and get unified, man. That's awesome what y'all have going on here. I'd love to see it.
Absolutely. So where are you located?
I'm in Mid-South US, Louisiana.
Louisiana. Okay, I've been there once before, I believe, a long time ago.
Where are y'all located?
So I am in, as noted earlier, I am in the city of Markham, which is just north of the city of Toronto in Ontario, here in Canada.
I thought so.
As well as Stephanie Schuller, who's on the line with us, is also in York Region, which is the same regional municipality where the city of Markham is located. So we share a border. We're two separate municipalities beside each other. So she's in Vaughan, I'm in Markham, and we're both beside the city of Toronto. So the Greater Toronto area actually has 25 municipalities in it. So we're hoping to establish these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives in every one of them eventually. But we're using Markham as a model for the rest of them. So this is essentially what we're doing this year, is creating the network, building the programs, having conversations, especially as well with our local leaders within those elected leaders that we have here. There was just an election on Monday where we invited all of our elected leaders to participate and understand what we're doing. We're also talking with Rotary Club, we're talking with Lions Club members, we're talking with all the service organizations in our community, as well as the NGOs and CSOs, like Drawdown Markham is actually a civil society organization. We're not an NGO. We're not registered to any specific government programs. So we're not a nonprofit or something like that. We are just
So
volunteers.
I'm curious how successful y'all have been with that, because my efforts to unify efforts with my local, organizations, it's just been a fail for me.
Yeah, well, it is definitely a process. But I myself have a local municipal councillor who was just elected. Again, we had our election on Monday, re-elected for their second term. They are aware of what we are doing and supportive, because we came to them early to talk with them and introduce them to the tree planting ceremonies. And they even offered to do a tree planting in my own community with the mayor and with the rest of the council, and then invite all of the rest of the members of the community to come out to this ceremony next summer. So this is we don't come to these communities in any way trying to create trouble or trying to cause controversy or trying to let's say talk down to what they're doing, because they're trying, they're struggling. We want to help them, to assist them in achieving what they'd like to achieve, but also the rest of our community. And we want to make sure that the community is involved in these conversations, which is why we create these sacred spaces in the community with the establishment of the youth peace gardens as these places for the community members to actually gather. And this is also why we want to create these Unity Garden learning centers as public spaces, sort of like community centers, where people can gather, people can come and have a conversation, where the trees of peace mark a space in the community where people are intending to come together, putting aside all of their differences, whether it's the color of their skin or their religion or their politics, or any other differences that they have. So we could have the conservatives and the liberals coming together.
Have you been able to
having
establish even one of these community centers?
We haven't yet, because we don't have funding, but we are in the conversation right now. Again, as I said, we'll likely be meeting with a regional council candidate tomorrow, who just ran in this election. So we're hoping to have that conversation as early as tomorrow to begin this process to establish our first one, because this is a new idea that's just come together in the past year, even less than a year since we started talking about this. So most of our elected leaders are not yet aware of this. My councillor is, but we need to get the mayor on board. We need to get the president of the Rotary Club and the president of the Lions Club and the president of the YMCA and their teams to understand what we're doing as well. And so until we have all of these community organizations that are in our community on board with this and understanding what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve, it's going to be a process to try to do this. But we need to educate them about what we're trying to achieve. And of course, what we're trying to do is achieve, as I noted, this localized, productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind, where the ultimate goal is to achieve that by 2030. So we have about 7 years or so to do that. So we're in no rush to get these partnerships established and to get these actual community garden learning centers established, these community hubs, the Unity Garden learning centers. But we will have those conversations today with our new elected council and prepare with them now to do the celebrations, to do the various ceremonies, and to actually start planning to build one of these centers at some locations in our community where we can actually build this physical infrastructure and begin partnering with the schools, with the universities, with the colleges, with the high schools, with the public schools, with even the daycare centers that are in our communities, to bring people in the community to these spaces to have these conversations about how we can move forward in peace and reconciliation and forgiveness, and to achieve this new economy that we'd like to achieve for all people, where we leave no one behind. So it's a grand vision, but it's also practical in many ways.
Indeed. So something I think that you should know of is the fact that I've designed a new economy that is without taxation. And it can be implemented right on top of current economies and things along those lines even. And basically what it does is it turns the public into a business. You know, the government, the local government into a business almost. And they have infinite funding essentially based on resources. It's backed by resources. And, you know, we have infinite resources, all renewable, et cetera. And that's where we will be able to pay pretty much infinitely for infinite work. And it can be established within a community, within an entire country, et cetera, you know. So maybe you could start working on getting the minute details of that worked out for
it sounds a little bit like REFI, which is actually one of the things that we're hoping to implement as well. So what I can do, if you'd like, is introduce you to the members of UnityNet Finance. And so then you can have conversations with people who are more skilled in understanding the regenerative finance, or REFI. So that
that'd be
sounds
beautiful.
like it's very much aligned, because REFI is also powered by things like blockchain, right? And the crypto currencies as well. And so I had actually put into, I believe, my presentation that took place for the Drawdown Markham meeting, information that's available online to understand better what is the meaning of REFI, which you're right. If we were to shift our economy to be, instead of backed by gold or oil or other resources that are limited and are essentially non-renewable, and if we backed our economy off of renewable resources, and if the backing of our currencies were backed by these renewable resources, it's actually much larger than the non-renewable resources we're currently backing our economy upon. And so with that as well, in order to grow the economy, the best solution is to grow the amount of renewable resources that are available for us to build our economy upon. So that means anything that increases the total amount of life on this planet, the total amount of biodiversity, the total amount of fresh water available, the total amount of food, and all of the basics of life. As you increase that quantity of materials in the economy, in the real world, in our local communities, we actually increase our economic prosperity as a result of that. And so that is sort of the basis of this regenerative financing concept, REFI. So your ideas are certainly not new.
Beautiful. That is so awesome that you're already working on that as well. And so I represent an organization called the International Industrial Hemp and Cannabis Coalition. It stems from a organization called Earth Mother Network. And I would love to get our organizations in touch, you know, as well as possible. That would be awesome. We're a network similar to what y'all got going on here, it seems. And I mean, I believe all of this is in alignment, and we should be really chasing unification of efforts.
Well, as you may have noticed, if you if I don't know if you've done so in the past, but if you save the chat, go to the three little dots at the bottom of the Zoom window and save the chat. I will also be producing a document as that I'll be sharing after this as well, as I noted. But I did put into the chat a link for people to join.
Can you save the chat on a cell phone? On an iPhone?
I'm not sure. But I will. I do have a laptop as I've done it, but I'm just putting in your comments into the chat so that we have a record of them as well. I'm going to note that this is the gentleman by the name of the Revolutionary Party.
Dylan King
By
is where you can find me on Facebook.
Dylan King, aka the Revolutionary Party. I'm just putting this into the chat. And I do remember hearing from you before. But I wanted to, I'm just putting in the chat one more time if you want to link on it right now, in case you are unable to save the chat in your own cell phone there. The Unity Hub Network. There is a discussion group.
Yeah, Lloyd, also I know last week you did upload to SlideShare the chat information. I will
do it this week again.
Yeah, so Dylan, make sure you have your email contact to the lit. And also Dylan, contact me directly. I'm also working with a team on that as well. Thank you.
Yeah,
awesome.
so
that was Andrew, right?
Andrew Williams Jr.
Awesome.
Yeah, so definitely hemp is part of the idea around creating the eco villages, the Unity Eco Village Network, which actually Stephanie Schuller is also a member and working toward that through her pilot project, Maui Aloha Project, Eco Village Network. So as we move forward, as we develop eco villages, we would like to also ensure that they are powered by hemp as one of the key and critical grasses. There are others, though, that we're hoping to also leverage other species that are incredibly prolific and are beneficial to the earth and its environments. So I think at this point it is about 2:28 on my clock, and I believe we can probably wrap up unless anybody else would like to say a few closing comments. Thank you, Andrew. So with this, I will be closing up the week 73 of our Indigenous Global Unity Summit event. Thank you all for coming on, and we will see you next week. We are moving forward in development programs that will hopefully impact positively on all local communities around the world.
Okay, Dylan, I did put my contact information in the chat as well, if you like.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm gonna go look at that.
Okay, I'm gonna wind it up now. Also, Dylan, we know we're on Facebook, so you have a way to reach me however you need to.
Oh, and
Yes,
there's Juliet.
we are friends on Facebook already, and I went and added the rest of y'all as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Did you want to wait and see and have Juliet also give her own update since she just joined us?
Well, we're a family.
Sure.
The ball's in your court.
Juliet, welcome to the IGU Summit.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about the delayed registration. Yes, I couldn't connect from my phone, so I had to find my laptop. Apologies for that.
No, we were just wrapping up.
Oh, you were?
So
What happened to 6 o'clock?
You have to check your time. We've been here for an hour and a half, Juliet.
Or are we not back to the 6 p.m. time?
We've been at this, at any rate, set your clock back for an hour and a half for next week. We are only here every week. We're here at the same time for the last 6 months.
Okay, all right. So I thought it has changed back to normal time. All right, apologies.
No,
Sure.
you know what? Come to think of it though, here in the United States next month we do change, but that'll be in November, maybe next week. Come to think of it. But Juliet, the floor is yours. Do you want to share any updates with our group here? And do you want to open your video because we are streaming or not?
Okay, I will do that. With just
Hi,
one earring
Stephanie.
on.
Looks like you're outside in the wind.
Okay, 1 second.
I am. I'm actually looking at a major university to see their food initiatives as far as gardens and farms, because the universities can be a leader and their websites show that they are doing so many good projects, but I think COVID has really affected a lot of that, like a lot of participation and showing up. And it's a shame because housing and food insecurity is so bad here in Toronto, as I know it is even worse at other places around the world. So I'm finding out the contacts' names, and, you know, really, I see the cruciality of what we're trying to do here with UnityNet International and all of the prongs on all of the continents, because people, even within their own buildings where there's huge food initiatives, garden initiatives, they don't even know they exist. They've been there, working there for 20 years, have no clue. So we really need to get the show on the road. A lot of people who are not thinking about a climate crisis or food insecurity or anything. Yeah.
Agreed. Well, Lloyd, as you know, Corin Smith brought to our attention that we will be facing a food pandemic after the COVID pandemic. And so we do need a peace pandemic.
Well, this was the original concept we created with the now it's called the global Unity Network. But it started with what we called the Unity pandemic.
I remember.
Which was the idea that we would create a pandemic of peace. And this is part of the culmination of that work over the past 2 years.
Well, Juliet, I apologize. We took the floor, but yes, also Lloyd, with the current crisis around the world, I think it's even more important that we focus on this focus on peace as a precursor for anything else, because without peace, we can't do anything else. All right, Juliet, the floor is yours. We love you.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad I'm here. If it's at the last minute. So general updates, isn't it?
At your convenience. This is not the last minute. This is your minute.
Oh, hallelujah, no. You know, you're such a godsend when it comes to work.
Take your time and do it right.
Yes, thank you, Prince Andrew. Yes, no, firstly, I want to recap, and I don't know if she's done it, and thank, because we attended the International Day of the Girl Child, the event that was hosted in Nigeria, and obviously virtually, thank goodness to Entry Network, who made it possible for us to attend that event. I know it was early for other people, but we were able to sit through it. It was quite a significant day because the emphasis was on self-defense. So it was actually good to see that it's not just about talk, but how Dr. Atma puts into practice what they preach, because they were giving girls basic skills on physically protecting themselves. So that was awesome. And I enjoyed the program because I realized that it's also something that could be introduced in South Africa and anywhere else in the world. And it's, I mean, not only that, it's things that I also could learn and hopefully I won't have to practice, but you never know. So it's on that. And then we used that event to raise awareness on this side, because we didn't have any event, unlike last year. The volatile nature of our environment does not encourage any mass gathering. So we just used that events and the key issues that came from that events to raise awareness in South Africa. So it shows you the power of this platform and the networks that happen here, because it then means that it actually makes the world not just smaller by just virtually, but also in practice. So I'd like to thank Prince Andrew, Professor Lloyd, and all the other participants on this program that have made this platform possible. It's on that. And then the other key issues that I don't know if you are aware that the United States raised some terror attack alert for our famous town, for Sandton City. And it is just interesting because my daughter and I were planning on going there on Saturday, because we'll be hosting the biggest Pride Week or Pride Weekend or Pride event, where we are promoting and celebrating diversity and allowing people of different sexual orientation to be represented and be protected. And South Africa prides itself for being one of the first few countries in the world, and I think one, if not the only one in Africa, that allows gay marriage. So Saturday was supposed to be a big event where there would be a big gathering in Sandton City. It happens every year, but this year was supposed to be quite big because it's Pride Africa. So it's not just Pride South Africa, but that's supposed to represent the whole of Africa. And we got an alert yesterday that there's a planned terror attack in the Sandton area. And obviously it will be targeting that space where there would be a big group of people parading, you know. So so with that has dampened the spirit around the preparations around Pride Africa. But what we're just grateful that we got the alert early enough. Hopefully people will heed. The event, I think, will most likely be cancelled, though our South African government is downplaying it and they're saying there is no evidence. And I believe that the only evidence of any terror attack is the actual terror attack happening. So when our government is saying, no, there's no evidence, I think that's nonsense. We're not going to risk people's lives. So, and this is, people's lives should not be put at risk for political correctness. And this is what happens, and this will speak to Stephanie as well and other people here, the issues that we raise on our UnityNet Feminism and Women's group, is that tolerance is important, you know, because we live in a country where South Africa is quite diverse. It's quite inclusive in terms of religious tolerance. So we've got a very strong group of what people would call without wanting to classify the Islam, what do you call them, the extreme Islam people who do not tolerate certain things such as freedom of sexual orientation, etc. So we are it's called religious fundamentalists. So those religious fundamentalists, one way or another, contribute to such threats because they're not happy. But unfortunately, we are very diverse and broad country as South Africa. So we're hoping that, and we will not allow such threats and other things to change the nature of our country, because this is the one country where you find, whether it's Chinese, Nigerian, Ugandan, Cameroonian, Pakistani, I mean, you find people who are from the, let's say, people who are gay from all nationalities, because they know that here they will not be prosecuted. They know that their rights are protected. So we will continue as a country and upholding that. But other than that, we had interesting discussions at UnityNet African Diaspora. And I believe those discussions, Professor Lloyd was part of those discussions, should continue, but I believe they must continue. Those were discussions around the issue of the boy child. Yes, and I believe that that discussion needs its own webinar. And maybe that is one of the events that we could look at having quite soon. That the UnityNet Feminist and Women's Group can host, because it needs proper discussions, it needs to be tabled properly. But more than anything else, that is South Africa, we are dealing, so those are the positives. I look at those as positives, though they're challenges. The only negative that we are facing in our country is that there's been a high increase of murder of children. Yes, so yeah, I'm talking 4-year-olds, 9-year-olds, because of our justice system and also because of how things are investigated. When people do wrong against children, what they do is they find a way of getting rid of them through murder as to hide evidence. But things come up, but those are some of the big challenges that we face. But what we were saying, that in this country, these issues, gender-based violence in South Africa is reported as one of the highest in the world, mainly because it gets reported. The difference between us and Zimbabwe and Kenya and other countries, I don't know which, and maybe other countries that I'm not mentioning outside the African continent, is that South Africa, these issues get reported and our system attempts to do something. So the fact that they get reported, they seem to be high, whilst in other cases in other countries they exist, but they are just shoved under the table. But more than anything else, I'd like to appreciate this moment and say, my name is Juliet Miabo. I'm based in South Africa. By now, anyone listening should have figured that out. I work with marginalized communities, Soweto and other townships. And I'm part of an organization also that's called One Soweto, which will also get an opportunity to present itself here. One Soweto, but also I'm the head and the founder of Soweto CSI Council and Gemma Youth Development, where we focus on development and sporting issues. But in a nutshell, this is a good platform. We've been at it for 73 weeks. Yes, when I started, I still had hair. I lost my hair in the process. But it's a good platform and it's much appreciated for the networks and discussions that happen. Thank you so much.
Well, you mentioned Dr. Atama, and she happens to be with us. So Her Excellency Atama, would you like to unmute and introduce yourself?
Oh.
Or if any questions of Juliet, the floor is still open for this particular period.
I just wanted to
Awesome.
say to Juliet that we should, after this call, arrange to have your presentation date set for the presentation about One Soweto, depending on your preparedness for doing that.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Dr. Atama, are you there? Can you unmute yourself?
Oh, is she on the platform?
Network challenges.
Oh,
Okay. Yo.
oh no.
No, no, unfortunately, we cannot hear her, unfortunately.
That
But
is unfortunate. Sounds like a song we should record.
I'm trying to mute her, but I can't even do that. So.
Okay.
Good evening. It's evening here.
This
Oh,
is
yeah,
the reason why we
I'm
need
sorry about
high-speed
that.
internet everywhere across Africa.
Oh, you can't
Yeah,
hear.
now we can hear
Hello.
Well, we
Yes.
could.
Okay, can you hear me now?
you. Finally,
Yes.
yeah.
And I muted her. So now I have to.
Okay, Prince Andrew.
Now you have to
know
ask
how
her to
hard we worked on
unmute.
that. Let's try again.
Tama, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, let's do a Hollywood do-over. Start all over again.
Exactly.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we hear you,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I was trying to apologize for having missed the meeting for quite a number for some time now. I was really missing all of you. And it was not intentional. It has been from one thing to the other. And I'm happy to be joining back again. Thank you. And I also wish to thank all of you for the support you gave to me during our event, during the International Day of the Girl Child. It was amazing to see all of you joining us. Andrew was there, Juliet was there. I got Lloyd's apology that he couldn't join, and every other person that was able to join. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I'd like to ask Dr. Tama if you might want to mention a little bit about your trip to New York.
Yes, that was my first time and it was so exciting. Yeah, I don't know, but it was exciting. I saw New York, I saw US for the first time. And interestingly, I went there for a UN program, which was amazing. So, and in the course of attending the program, I also met so many wonderful people, especially Bill, who I interacted with courtesy of Prof. Lloyd. It was really nice. We actually went there to discuss civil registration and vital statistics and how that impacts gender and how gender is impacted by that activity. And it was awesome. I don't know if there is any particular thing you would like me to mention.
There's a lot we'd like you to mention. Maybe we must leave it for next week.
We should perhaps have you come on in a future week, Dr. Atama, to give us an update about what it is you have been doing and how you are moving forward, especially in Nigeria, which of course, if you had attended the call earlier, you would have noticed I had many new links to different organizations, including UN Habitat. So there were many links to the programs they're running. And so the point was made that Nigeria is one of those countries where urbanization is proceeding the most rapidly. I think in so many other countries around the world, Nigeria is specifically pointed out as a place where issues of urbanization need to be addressed. Yeah. And I'm thinking that Andrew might have a few other words to say about programs delivered through UN Habitat.
Well, actually, I'd like to let everyone know here, and I'll put this in the chat. And what you may or may not know is that the UN Habitat has its own 20-year plan. They go from 2016 to 2036. This is specifically related to Sustainable Development Goal number 11, sustainable communities, cities, and communities. And those communities include our displaced communities as well as our refugees, et cetera. But you can, in fact, I'll put the link in the chat. It's, or you can search it, UN Habitat New Urban Agenda Illustrated. You can download this publication. And Lloyd, I want to also let you know there's an online course where it's free that will walk everyone through the basic outline. And you can just simply go there and click on it and be able to, at your own pace, learn more about how what we're doing impacts not just the Sustainable Development Goals, but in particular, climate change, climate adaptation, and all the elements that we are faced with on a daily basis. But as Juliet says, we cannot do anything without tolerance and peace. So that's why the World Humanitarian Organization of Peace and Equity is our champion in Nigeria to open up the doors worldwide so that what we're doing has a basis in SDG number 16, peace in our community. And Lloyd, finally, the UN Global Compact has a platform called Business for Peace. So Heinrich, I want to bring that to your attention, and also you, Lloyd, because we can actually adapt these same things that are set up for countries in our local communities to engage our business owners. Finally, Juliet, the United Nations Global Compact has chosen Nigeria as a hub for its 5 sectors on the African continent for their 2021 through 2023 plan of action, which this is a part of. And Abuja is the home of that location, but Nigeria could be that platform or that network through which we can bring all of our elements together to connect the dots, particularly Heinrich during this first 10-year implementation plan of the African Union Agenda 2063. That has as much relevance, if not more so, in South Africa than anyone else, because it was in Sandtown, South Africa in 2012, where they had the Diaspora Summit that connects it together, those people in the African diaspora with the continent, but it's our task to connect the diaspora with the continent as well. So thank you. I'll put the link in the chat for the illustrated new urban agenda illustrated version.
Mhm. So this very much aligns as well with the conversation that Dr. Atama had with Bill Zasinski. So we are hoping that eventually we can help to bring both programs of the Sustainable Planet as well as some of the infrastructure that he's trying to demonstrate as well in New Jersey to Nigeria as a first step in Africa.
Yes.
Well, please include me in that conversation, Lloyd, when you have a chance.
Okay.
I think, hello.
Yes, go right ahead, Dr.
After you.
Okay, Andrew, I wanted to say that that explanation is awesome. It will be interesting, and hopefully it will impact on us here in Nigeria. My only concern is having it in Abuja. Abuja is the capital of Nigeria, and of course is an urban area. And so if you really want such projects to make impact, there may be needs for to also consider having it in rural communities rather than having it concentrated only in the urban area. So as you work to have it in Abuja, maybe there may be needs to also have maybe hubs in different communities, especially considering the way Nigeria is structured. If you do it only in Abuja, it's likely not going to go around, because we operate a regional system in Nigeria where you have the north, majorly centered in Abuja, then you have Lagos, then the east. So my appeal is there any possibility of maybe having it by region so that all the other ethnic groups in Nigeria can also benefit? But I know it's a process, and it's just to get you thinking about it, that there may be need to decentralize it.
Absolutely. This is why we
Well,
need people on the ground like you.
Just a moment, Lloyd. In answer to your question that you asked me, of course, if I had the budget for the United Nations Global Compact, I'd make it available in every city. But the shorter answer is that this is supposed to be only a hub, but the intent of the agenda, which I'll ask you to find out, you can type in UN Global Compact African Agenda 2021 through 2023. But this is specifically focused on those major corporations. They're looking for the top 100 largest businesses in each of the 55 African countries to join the United Nations Global Compact. But it's up to us as civil society throughout the rural and also urban communities to hold them accountable. So they have a very, I think, very achievable goal. They're looking at the top 100 companies, but my task, or our task, I would hope, is that we can add to the civil society 10 times their existing number, so we can balance and hold accountable these larger corporations throughout the rural communities and throughout our homes. So that's a short answer. But Lloyd, back to you.
Yeah, so this is very important. This is how we started out these sessions to understand that what we are trying to do here as well is to bring civil society into the UN Global Compact. So that was the original discussion I had with Andrew at the very beginning of all this, where we wanted to really hold all of those corporations accountable by bringing in civil society, which can get free membership into the UN Global Compact. But coming back to Dr. Atama, as I was going to say, this is the reason we have people on the ground, so they understand what actually best for their own communities in their own countries, in their own regions. So it's not planned by people who are not even living there. We want this to be done by the communities through these partnerships. So we help to create partnerships at the local levels where those partners come in together and make those decisions for themselves. So it's not done by in the traditional way of top down by somebody that doesn't even live in these communities.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Thank you.
If I may say, sorry, is that the model that you are using with the university, that you are working with in Nigeria, we had discussed with the University of Johannesburg a partnership. So, and a lot of the discussions have been around job creation, entrepreneurship. So I realized that we want to come in the area of equity and gender issues. So that's why I want us to maybe to discuss away from this platform to see if we can use the same model that you are using at the University of Nigeria, and I could use that as a proposal at the University of Johannesburg. Yeah, because I think the two countries, Kenya and South Africa, have a bilateral relationship, but we can forge as a civil organization a bilateral relationship around issues of gender and equity. And Nigeria and South Africa could be a strong partner in making an impact on behalf of the whole continent as well.
Well, Kenya has a very important role. Just a moment, because Kenya has a very important role because the headquarters for the United Nations is in Kenya, and their focus is importantly also underutilized because the country of Japan has a plan called the Tokyo Independent, excuse me, Tokyo International Conference on African Development. And they just most recently had their meeting, I think, in Tunisia, but the previous event was in 2016 in Kenya. So these are ongoing activities that it's up to us to find out how what they're doing can impact our local community. So the people in our UnityNet group from Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, Ethiopia, we have, I think, representatives on the ground. So I do hope that, you know, as we go forward, we're able to mobilize ourselves and be able to attack the problems that we have with resources that are sourced locally, as Lloyd likes to say, locally and globally. Thank you.
Okay.
Malika, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Juliet, I just want to quickly say that that is interesting to hear, and maybe we can have further discussions on that. It will be amazing. Even right now, I don't know if you know, we have two global events that is upcoming now. We have International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which is usually 25th November of every year. And we also have 16 days of activism against gender-based violence that is upcoming. So we are also exploring to see how we can organize around these events, and maybe we can have conversations around that too. But I think it's a good idea to think along that line of partnership and possible collaboration, especially to address, I don't know whether you have the level of gender-based violence, especially sexual harassment and abuse in South Africa the way we have it in Nigeria. It's
You just
common in
mentioned.
Nigeria, and that's why, that's
Yeah,
that's
we
why we are
unfortunately
doing,
we
yeah,
with the
that's why we are
capital.
doing what we are doing. These two events that are upcoming is very important for us because in Nigeria, all the Nigerian universities has been on strike for about 8 months now. So they just resumed this week, Monday. And it's likely that a number of things will be happening around. There will be a series of abuse, people having mental. I was also raising it with Stephanie yesterday, the issue of mental health and how it impacts adolescents, especially those in schools, because of a lot of issues. From time to time, they are always out of school, either because of strike or because of one thing or the other. You can imagine closing down all the universities in Nigeria, all the public universities for 8 good months. And even right now, people are not certain of what happens next because lecturers have not been paid up till now. And the strike was just suspended. It was not called off, meaning that anything can still happen. So those are the issues that are impact everybody, especially girls, because when they are out of school, a lot of things happen, trauma that can cause trauma and all that. So we can discuss about that to see how we can take things forward.
I can provide
Thank
a platform for both of you if you're talking about November, because we have a project called Thanks Loving that we use here at 5 Points Youth Foundation every year. We celebrate also the 5 elements of hip hop, Juliet. So this gets our young people involved. But we're looking at this as a season, not just of Thanksgiving, but of Thanks Loving that we carry through January with the Martin Luther King weekend. We call it the Kingdom Day Connection. So the idea of this beloved community that involves all people is something that we have a platform for. So we'll be happy to share that with you and make it available to you as well. Malika, you've joined us late, but you're always on time. And also, Muhammad, I see you're here. Looks like we're going to keep going until we stop going. So, Malika, can you tell us hello? Muhammad, would you like to check in before we check out? And if not, the floor is back to you, Lloyd.
So I'm happy to hear. I wanted to ask if Dr. Akama could put those 2 events and the dates that they will take place into our chat just for the record, so we have it as part of our documentation. So as we move forward, as I create these documents each week, I will be posting them to share, and so that, as we did last time, we have this record of all of our at least PowerPoints with all of this chat information available for people to read, and have the links to all of the relevant information. So if, at the very least, we could have the dates and the days of the different events that you mentioned, those 2 in November.
Yeah, I also put the link into thanksloving.org. It hasn't been updated, I think, since last year. But just to let you know, Lloyd, we will also have a platform on the AHIABGA-TV network with Lady Alicia Hamilton. I was just off the phone with her and Joseph Akinola. We're going live with that finally within the next 2 weeks. So these Zoom events that we're having can now reach a satellite audience and TV audience. But all this up to this date has been practice. So we have to get ready for prime time. So just giving you all the heads up, we need to have a schedule of your upcoming events and a calendar that we can begin to share. Lloyd, also, Matt Falk is on hold for us to get back to him. So we have an option also for that virtual network that you've always been talking about, Lloyd. Now we have that at our fingertips, but we have to have the personnel ready to manage that. So again, back to you.
Yeah, so obviously we have been talking about this for a while. It was the first platform we wanted to create on the Easy Expo platform. I guess this will be a AHIABGA network space.
Well, technically, I did, just to let you know, Lloyd, when we first launched AHIABGA back in September 21st of 2019, And then we, on January 1st, launched our network globally. It was in May that I actually incorporated the PAR-XDC Export Trading Company. And then I adapted the AHIABGA-TV network, UnityNet Enterprises, as portion of this corporate infrastructure. So we do have a bank account to work with. We're licensed in California. So it will actually be in one of our many brands, but they're all connected to the Andrew networks, bottom line.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, absolutely. We will actually hoping to have a conversation within the next week or so, or about the formalization of this relationship as well, because we obviously want to get this launched. I've been thinking as we still move forward, of course, 2022 was essentially designated as a year where we do our trial basis for all of the events that would happen, those UN events, and where we would really build the ecosystem. So actually, I have here a paper in front of me. I just scribbled down, and you'll see a list of a bunch of different things on this paper, because I need to create Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups for a number of the nodes of our network, which I haven't done yet. Including the medical network, the nurses network, the Dream Boards network, the Turtle Island network, the Smart Cities network, and a bunch of other ones, including the hemp network, which we talked about today. And so we have WhatsApp groups for a lot of these networks, but no other social media, which means they're siloed and nobody knows about them. So we need to build those public networks as well. And that's part of my tasks as we build the network.
Well, before I go, I did put a link in the chat as well, Lloyd, to the andrewnetworks.com. Joseph Akinola is helping to develop this and build this out. But I do have reference material there to some of the things we've talked about and some of the things we haven't talked about, like the SDG happiness pyramid that has broken this down from an Eastern standpoint to spiritual, ecological, and people goals. So these are just part of the tools and resources that are available at andrewnetworks.com. We're still building it out. We're not through yet, but we feel like it's important to have a reference material. So you'll find the sustainable development goals. You'll find the videos as well as links. Each one of these links will take you to that specific goal. And we even have the story of human rights, because at the end of the day, the United Nations Global Compact is based upon the principles of the UN Charter back in 1948, and that's based on the 30 human rights. Until we have everyone aware of what those are, we're going to have a more challenging time in self-empowering all of our networks. So we're beginning with human rights as one of the 4 principles of the United Nations Global Compact, and then focus on labor, the environment, and of course, anti-corruption and transparency. So these are the elements that are the basis of what we're doing to work and go forward. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if you were paying attention, because you said you were busy quite a bit with other broadcasts today. But I did mention as well, and it's in the chat, about the importance of UNDRIP.
Yes.
And how UNDRIP is very important for collective rights, especially of the indigenous communities, but not only. It's not where most of these rights charters focus on individual rights.
That's
we
important.
Now have a framework for collective rights.
That's important for Dylan too, and the Revolutionary Party, because the Universal United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, that does have revolutionary and evolutionary implications, because unless we empower the people at the bottom, it's not going to work. So we have to find ways that are beginning from the bottom up. And I do like what the president of Kenya mentioned during his recent activity at the United Nations. And he took a phrase from Joe Biden of build back better, but we have to build back better from the bottom up. And so that's what I'm committed to. And you have my full support in any activities that help us to achieve that objectives.
Actually, that's a good phrase, and it's actually, it forms the basis of the philosophy that we've been doing and building in UnityNet. And I think just wasn't elucidated as succinctly as that until now.
Well, I think it's okay if we adapt that and give credit to the source. And because again, Kenya is so important to everything we're doing. And just from a personal note, it was 1980 that I met my first person from Kenya in Atlanta, Georgia. His name is Jonathan Goodluck, not the president, but he was in fact a prince from Kenya, working as a parking lot attendant while he attended an historically Black college and university. So Stephanie, the work you're doing there at the university, it also mirrors the reality I've seen here in Los Angeles. We have a community college district that actually was the foundation of this very group. It was founded at Los Angeles Trade Technical College by Professor Marcela Oliva, and her environmental and architectural design department. We are in fact a community think tank and advisory board. That's what this meeting today grew out of. So we're very much committed to connecting together the dots between community colleges, higher universities, et cetera. Also in the chat though, I put a link to the work I'm doing in the Philippines. They've been their schools have been shut down for 2 years. And we actually were able to provide not just water and electricity, but also Wi-Fi and broadband to over 1,800 households, representing over 5,000 students that got wiped out during the typhoon. So we're struggling now to get that equipment back up and running. And we're launching a GoFundMe campaign on the AHIABGA-TV network, also on the New World Network, TRN. That's coming out today. So expect an email from me about that. Hopefully we can find a ways we can put together education for the SDGs, along with tourism for SDGs, as this demonstration model that we can use to share worldwide. Thank you, Lloyd. Back to you. I'm going to leave it to you. I've got to take off, so I'm going to make you host.
Okay, so thank you very much, Andrew, for his incredible updates as we are moving forward. Things seem to be accelerating every week, which is perhaps a good thing. As we move forward, we just get busier and busier though. So limited number of hours in a day, but we need to as well work together and delegate all of our activities to the members of our network, which is part of another reason we built this network. So we can work together as long as we understand what it is we are trying to achieve. So again, but we do try to work locally wherever we are to do the things that we need to do in our own communities while helping all the others in understanding how they can help themselves. And so this is the essence of the Global Unity Network and the localization of the SDG program that we are trying to deliver. So thank you all again for coming on the call. If there's any last comments before we wrap up today, it is now about 1:15 p.m. Local time here in Toronto. I'm seeing Stephanie, you put on your video. Are you wanting to say a few last words?
I'm just saying thank you. This is so crucial. And just as Andrew said, connecting the colleges and the universities who are each doing initiatives, but nobody knows about them. Like our network is vital for networking and for sharing information all over the world in our regions, locally and globally. Yeah, so thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, everybody.
Right.
Okay, that's a wrap today. Love to everyone.
See you next week. Make sure you save the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We love you.